Hello, friends. Good to be with you again. Do you ever wish you could go back in time and thank some special teachers in your life, maybe a special one? I could spend hours talking about quite a handful of teachers who influence me still. For example, and I won't have time really to do her honor, but the never to be forgotten Miss Pettibone of first grade when I was 6 years old. More by her example than her words. She showed us that school, and presumably life, wasn't always easy. There were difficult parts, but oh, the endless adventure of it. Always something new to be learned and experienced, and to be met with open eyes and expectancy. I can still see her dark hair and her shining eyes, welcoming smile, and send her my thanks for the years. Now, I'm particularly thinking today of a teacher who, oddly enough, though I distinctly remember Miss Pettibone of first grade, I was in ninth grade, 14 years old, about 82 years ago. And I don't remember his name or his face. It's possible he was not a teacher, but maybe a senior student. I was a lowly ninth grader, and those senior students seemed like Olympian gods to us. But though I can't remember his name or face, I will never forget what he taught us. He was the editor of our high school newspaper. And he taught us, first of all, how to be reporters, and then how to be responsible editors. And he taught us, and I've never forgotten it, he said, when you're reporting, be sure that in your first paragraph of what you've learned includes the 4 W's. Who, what, when, and where. The why can wait until you get more facts and more evidence. He taught us how to interview. It wasn't just school news. It was community news as well. He taught us how to talk to officials in town, how to interview maybe teachers, maybe parents, people of note, and people of insignificance. He taught us all these things. And above all, he taught us how to honor the facts, the reality. He said if you're moving over into the position of an editor, you giving your own opinion, make it clear that this is your opinion, but as much as possible, and you are responsible, base it on the facts of the matter. And this is something I've never forgotten, particularly in the whole matter of professional conversation, professional dealings, whether medical, academic, working through difficult issues with anyone, to try to keep to the essential point, to try to keep your eye on the reality of what we're talking about. In other words, build it on the rock of reality. I've never forgotten what he taught us, and honoring the expression, the search, and the statement of truth, which is not influenced by any politics, government, church, military, but reality as it is. Now, of course, there's a long history of bringing the news, beginning with the horses. We know of that, of course, Pony Express, Paul Revere, and all the rest. That's one of the ancient ways. Another way were the trained runners, taught from youth how to run for long distances over many miles to bring news to small communities scattered around. Also, of course, there were the town criers who would go out in the public square and announce what was going on to the townspeople. And let's not forget the carrier pigeons. Carrier pigeons go back thousands of years and were used, amazingly enough, right up through both world wars. Think of that. To drop messages and carry messages from behind the enemy lines. Now, the history of independent journalism is something else again. That is also a very long story, because right up to about 250 years ago, the media, such as they were of course the tools of the party, the government, or the church. It was not till the 1700s that it was freedom of the press, freedom of speech protected by law. There's our First Amendment for you, which was quite revolutionary. This is amazing to have facts spoken as they were. The pen mightier than the sword. Now, back in 1938 to 39, I've spoken of this in some of my earliest messages. We learned that year in Europe, where my father was teaching for that year, the way dictators could control a nation, whether from outer conquest or inner revolution and coup, after they take charge, occupy the seats of power, parliament houses, and take into custody people in power, government officials, the military leaders, and so on, then one of the first things you want to do, maybe even simultaneous, is to occupy the offices, the sources of the radio, television, newspaper, telephones, telegraph offices. Control them and make it very clear over these media that you are now in total control. And after the populace learns this, often the hard way, then go into non-stop propaganda, twisting the truth in any way that suits you. My husband, who was born in Germany, was 6 years old when the Nazis came into power. And looking back, he remembers that in his school, no real world history was taught, only the glories of the Anglo-Saxon races. And of course, he remembers the newspapers, the radios, the printing press, totally controlled. He told us that his grandfather would secretly listen to a hidden little radio up in the attic to find out from governments elsewhere what was really going on in the world. And of course, if he'd been caught, he would have been arrested and put in prison. That was a crime to listen to outside sources. Have you heard of the White Rose Group in Nazi Germany in around 1942? That was a group of students, some who had already served as medics in the Army, in the front lines, a couple of professors, who realized they were being totally lied to in every possible way by their government. And they found a printing press, a secret one, and printed out thousands and thousands of pamphlets giving the real facts of what was going on. On the war front, the treatment of Jews, the treatment of politicians, the treatment of people who didn't happen to be of Aryan race. They were trying to tell the whole truth, to waken up the nation. They were captured and executed in 1943, these young men and one young woman, guillotined, actually, not in public. That would have made martyrs of them, the government thought, guillotined in private, and their families forced to pay the costs of the execution. Many martyrs through history trying to tell the truth, trying to build on the rock of reality. Now, this kind of thing is done very swiftly, sometimes almost overnight, in conquest from the outside, or revolution or coup from the inside. Here with us now, our federal government, we're a long way as yet from what is done in total dictatorships. But we are seeing many, many ominous signs that the federal government is trying, whether they realize it or not, moving in that direction. The constant, nonstop efforts to attack, to challenge, to undermine independent thinking and writing and publishing. Did you, for your sins, see part of that White House Correspondents' Dinner a week ago, which has been described with Trump's participation, his speech, as crass, surreal, and cringeworthy? The string of insults he threw at the newspapers and the reporters. Have you noticed how when reporters ask inconvenient questions, he slaps them down? Our own high school editor never prepared us for the possibility, which seemed, of course, totally impossible, that anybody worthy of public office, let alone the President of the United States, would speak to a sincere reporter with these words: "Be quiet, piggy." You've heard, of course, he's trying to remove the license of the media that didn't run his full speech about trying to reform elections, which he claims are rigged. He'd like to make them impossible to broadcast anymore, not air their opinions. Or the constant suing of reporters, newsmen and women in newspapers, and his calling editors who criticize what he's doing in this apparently unstoppable war. He calls them traitors. You've seen, of course, how they are constantly trying to control universities. Who's to be hired, what they are to teach, what students they may allow in. Reaching out bit by bit to all the forms of widespread media in universities, schools, classrooms, libraries, gnawing, chipping, undermining in every way until the building collapses like termites or maybe better carpenter ants. That would be a better analogy, because you can hear termites work silently. Carpenter ants, you can hear what they're doing. You can really hear it. We built a little precious little wooden children's playhouse once, and within a week, the carpenter ants were at work, chewing away audibly. I'm hearing the chewing going on now. I think the first ornament a well-meaning aunt gave me was a little model of the three monkeys, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The three monkeys sitting down, hands over eyes, ears, mouth. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. It dates back 1,500 years ago, at least, to Confucius. At least he talked about that concept. Later on, the actual three monkeys were carved and found in an old Japanese temple. I have learned it's the opposite. My aunt meant well. She probably meant, as so many people do, at that little image, don't rock boats, don't concentrate on the negative. If you can't say good, don't say anything. It's the opposite that I've learned from my best teachers. Take the hands away from the eyes, take the hands away from the ears, take the hands away from the mouth. Yes, by all means, hear, see, speak aloud the good and the beautiful and the praiseworthy. That's excellent for the health and the atmosphere, no question, but also eyes open, ears open, mouth open, to see, hear, and speak of the erosion and gnawing away of that which is good and beautiful. Be fully and loudly aware, no denial. I'm again thanking that wonderful teacher. I may not remember his face or his name, but who taught me and is still inspiring me to be aware of the who, what, when, and where, and to use my best mind I can to find the why, and to thank him for the inspiration I still feel. Thank you for being with me. Bye now.